Welcome to the MyBusiness Podcast, where we sit down with local businesses and we talk about who they are, where they come from, and what inspires them to be in business.
Welcome to another edition of the MyBusiness Podcast. My name's Rob Verhoeve, and I'm here today with Liz Lafferty from The Art of Confident Driving. How are you, Liz?
Good, thanks, Rob. How are you?
Very good. Liz, I have been really looking forward to this for the last couple of days since I knew you were coming in, because this is something completely different.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, I've been teaching people to drive since 1997, and I love it.
You must.
I do.
For 26 years.
I know, crazy, huh?
And the art of confident driving is a little bit more than just a driving instructor, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's designed to basically have me sitting in the car next to you without me being there. So I've been teaching the lessons, obviously, for a long time, and I've noticed that students, they pretty much act the same way, and it doesn't really matter what age or what sex or what ability. We all have the same fears, so they often manifest in the same way. So I'm very confident in what I can predict a student is going to do. So I've managed to not only make a really long program for learning to drive step by step, but also I can predict what you're going to do when something goes wrong.
And that only comes through experience, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and driving instructors are like anyone. You're going to have driving instructors that are green, brand new.
Yes.
And then you're going to have Liz, who's been doing it forever and loves doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So having that experience is going to be absolutely priceless for a student.
Yeah.
Now, I almost want to say that the traditional way of teaching people, as opposed to what you do now through the art of confident driving,
Yeah.
but really to call it the traditional way is wrong, because it is still the way that it's done, because the art of confident driving and what you're doing and what you've expanded into is first class. It's no one else has done it before, have they?
No, it is a world first.
Yeah.
But it is. I want to be able to give lessons to anybody. I want them to have access to high quality lessons where they can get the information to be a confident driver.
So explain how that works.
So we do start right from the beginning, right from the moment you sit in the car and you've never been in the driver's seat before. I talk you through all the controls. I talk you through how to use the pedals correctly. I talk you through the steering. Each single lesson gives you more information, and it's the information along with the practice and then along with the experience that will give you that true confidence.
So I went to your website and I had to listen to a couple of the podcasts that are part of the introduction to everything that you do.
Yes.
And I did find them very, very informative.
Oh, good.
So just so I understand, people would still go off and get so say we've got somebody interstate, they would still go off, get a couple of lessons, but then use your podcast series to help while they're learning with their parents or someone like that. Would that be a way that
you can use it in any way? It is specifically designed for any driver, but raw beginners.
Yep.
So, and especially I get a lot of parents saying, "Look, I just don't want to teach my kid the wrong thing." So that's why I've designed it so that the parent can be sitting in the car. You just press play, and I talk you through literally everything.
As you were saying that at the start, a light bulb went off with me that this is probably as important for the parent that's teaching their kids than it is for the kids.
Yeah.
Because the art of confident, and we spoke before we started about how much I love that term, that confident in there, because I think that once someone builds up confidence in whatever they're doing, they're better at it.
Yeah.
But that is for the teacher as well. How many parents do you hear saying, I don't want to get in the car with my kid?
Oh, yeah. I have a lovely student. He's done 40 hours, not all with me, but a lot of them with me because Dad's busy. And whilst Mum could take him out, she didn't want to. And he was so excited the other day when he got in the car with me. He said, "Mum took me out." I said, "That's wonderful." So, yeah, she's one of the many who are they're not confident when they're sitting in the passenger seat. And that's part of the problem, is because the parent, of course, feels as if they haven't got control.
Well, that's right. I mean, they don't.
Well, they do and they don't.
Well, sorry, they don't have control of the car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they and I do give that tip in one of my episodes of the parents. You do still have control. It's just got to be verbal control. So if you want the child to brake, don't just sit there silently. Tell them to start braking.
See, if that was me, I'd scream, "Brake now!" Or actually, my wife does that to me now. I was like, do you think I can't drive? But anyway, that's maybe I need to sign up for some lessons.
You're more than welcome to book a lesson.
Yes. In the morning when you get up, you obviously, because like we're doing this one quite early in the morning, this podcast, and you're full of energy. What gives you that energy? What motivates you every day?
I just love it. I love doing the job. I love giving the knowledge and experience to the student to go on out there and do it on their own, and to have the independence, because we all know once we have our license and a car, wow, we can do anything.
Well, we can.
Yeah, but without that, it's quite limiting. Now, not that there's anything wrong with not having a license, but if their goal is to have the license, I want them really confident, but more importantly, happy behind the wheel. I want every driver happy behind the wheel. And that's why I'm looking forward to the couple of episodes that are coming up soon, which will be roundabouts, because so many people, I actually get fully licensed drivers coming to me. A good 5% of my students. There we go.
I just put my hand up because sometimes they spin me out.
There you go.
No pun intended.
Exactly. So, I want all drivers to be confident and happy behind the wheel, so that once you've got the knowledge, you can then put into practice, how do I apply that when I'm actually on the road? So, yeah, I'm cannot wait for the future episodes where the more experienced drivers will get a lot out of it.
26 or 27 years of doing this, you must have helped thousands of people get their license.
Probably, yeah.
So I've got a question it's pulling from my background. Do you ever run into these people again in the street later on?
I do. I get waves. It's lovely.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's fabulous.
I've just found another profession that has that same feeling down the track, and I love that idea because you are making a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people have got to understand with, and this is across a lot of jobs, but there are certain jobs that you are helping someone with a life goal. It is,
yeah. It's a life skill and a life goal. Yeah. And it's something that you take with you for the rest of your life. And I think a lot of, certainly experienced drivers, we think, oh, look, we just get from point A to point B and it's probably more of a chore. I'd like to change your mind and say, well, let's get back to enjoying driving.
The Sunday drive?
The Sunday drive, absolutely.
Get onto the website. Now, the website is?
theartofconfidentdriving.com.
So it's nice and simple. You can't forget that. There are a couple of little podcasts that are on there for people to have a listen to that aren't part of the subscription, part of the learning package. And I've listened to all the ones you did. I think there was 3 or 4 that you had then, and there's some more about Truckzillas. Yeah, I did an interview with a Monash University lecturer about that. Yeah.
What's
Truckzilla?
It's the new big oversized trucks, the Rams and the
ones that use more petrol getting to the corner than I do getting to Brisbane.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah. The Rams and the Dodgers and all those big beasts. There is a proliferation of these big monster vehicles coming into Australia and being used on suburban roads. And the thing I'm worried about is the pedestrian safety. It's not a great one. Yep. So I did want to have a chat with him just to point out to the general public what sort of danger they could face if they're near one of these big. That's
right. You get into a different car, and there's different risks associated with them.
Absolutely.
A sports car, you could lose control, but these big Truckzillas.
Yep.
You've got blind spots that you didn't know you had blind spots in.
Exactly, and no change of license is required to drive these big things.
Wow. See that kind of stuff again. It's not something that you think of when when I turn up to work every morning. I drive about 5 minutes. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
But there's lots of different aspects to learning how to drive. One of the things with the podcasts that I listened of yours was just how simple you make it. Do you think that learning to drive can be simplified?
It absolutely can. I when I was first teaching, that we had books as thick as the old yellow pages that I had to study and learn. I used maybe a third to a half of those once I was actually in the vehicle. So after all these years, I've actually narrowed everything down to the most simple form I can give, and I communicate that to my students. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, is I've found such simple, easy ways of communicating some of the most complex things down to the most basics, so that people can always just think, what's the basic? Oh, I can stick with that. I can't ever go wrong if I stick with my basics. And of course I'll go into a lot more complex things, but I try and bring it down to the most simple form, the most logical form, and the form that doesn't get you all emotional. And that's the thing. Driving really is an actually logical thing, but we put far too many emotions to it, and it distracts us from the job of driving. So if we can just relax,
take
our time, not rush, and plan and think ahead, then driving is a much more pleasurable experience.
Now, I know the answer to this because I listened to the podcast. Is there such thing as the perfect drive?
No.
Come on, tell us about that, because I loved this part.
Well, the perfect driver?
Yeah, well, the fact that there is not one.
No, there can't be. It's impossible. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yep.
But it's how you react to that mistake, and what, as especially experienced drivers, but the younger ones, they've got to learn to do it as well. We've got to analyse, say, well, why did I make that mistake? How did it happen? And more importantly, how am I not going to do it again? Because we don't want to be embarrassed when we're on the road, but worse than that, we don't want to be involved in any sort of, drama.
Yeah.
We don't want to be involved in an incident which, requires us to.
Because I think too, I think back to all the years that I've been driving now, and probably the greatest lessons I learned post getting my license were from the mistakes I made.
Yes.
And thankfully, touch wood, that I've never had a mistake that caused injury or major damage to a car.
Yeah.
But I've done some things that it was like, whoa, that could have been bad.
That's right.
So that's what you prepare them for, to accept that you're going to make a mistake.
Yes, absolutely. And it's again, if you can plan that drama, you won't be near it if you're lucky. If you've planned and if you've listened, you shouldn't be needing to worry too much about the other drivers around you because you're prepared for them to do things.
One of the things I normally ask is who your website or who your business is trying to target. But again, we were talking before the podcast, it's anybody, isn't it?
It really is.
I hope my dad never listens to this, but he's getting on a little bit now, and his site isn't what it was. And I last week told my wife I don't want to get in the car with him. And I just think that he's lost a lot of his confidence. He was a great driver. So someone in his age bracket would get benefit from the podcast as well, especially the roundabout one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I will be doing a special older driver episode coming up soon because I have taught many over the years.
Yep.
And yes, they do lose confidence, and that's when a lot of dramas can happen on the road, where the hesitation of the driver can cause trouble with other drivers. We don't know what they're doing. So it's the knowledge that, listen, if I can really focus on the job of driving, I'm going to do better. I don't need to be so worried.
Yep. Is safe driving slow?
No, not at all. In fact, that can actually create more problems because other drivers will then get angry because you're slowing them down, you're slowing down the flow of traffic. So, we do encourage that if there are no hazards or problems, that, you should be somewhere close to the speed limit. And remember, guys, the limit is the limit,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
We don't particularly want to go over. We'd want to have a very good reason for going over. And police don't often accept that reason.
They don't. Again, I can put my hand up to that one. They don't accept any reasons.
There you go.
I've tried them.
Yeah. But no, safe driving, truthfully, it comes right down to, number one, knowing your road rules. And so many people do not know the road rules.
Yep.
So, most websites for the local, for the state governments will have road rule refreshers. So just pop on there and have a look. And if you're not certain, contact your local Department of Transport and say, I don't understand this.
I guess it's knowing your environment too. If you're driving on the freeway compared to driving on a back street or whatever it might be, you've got to know what you're doing.
Totally different. And that's the other thing. You've got to have a different mindset. So when you're coming off the freeway, you've been doing 110, and then you're into back streets again doing 60s and even 50s.
Feels like you're walking.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's the time we often speed and don't pay attention to pedestrians, and it can get quite tricky.
Are cars easy to learn in these days than what they were back when I was learning, and probably when you were learning in the 80s? And
that's a really good question. I think that the technology sometimes can get in the way. I think it can overtake. I think it can allow the driver to just not think and rely on the car to do certain things for it.
Do you know, I bought a car a couple of years ago and it said in the manual, it has this variable cruise control.
Right.
Sounds great. But it said, this is not automatic. Like, you still need to drive the car. And I thought to myself, What goose? And then I thought, well, yeah, probably there would be people that think they can just, let the car do the driving.
Yeah.
But that's not going to help someone, is it?
No, because one of these days those instruments might go down and then you're stuck being the driver again.
Oh, imagine that.
Oh.
The question that's just come into my head, and this really, I don't know how it fits into our podcast, but it does. Manual cars, do people learn in manual cars anymore?
Another good question. They are getting much less. In fact, there are some manufacturers you literally need to order them to get a manual transmission.
Remember in the day you had to pay more to get an automatic?
Yes.
And now you've got to ask to get a manual.
That's right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
They are still out there. One of my good mates who I did an interview with on the website, he's a manual instructor.
Yep. I saw that one.
Yes.
I didn't watch that one, but I did see that on there.
Instructor John. So yeah, manual is still out there, but when I first started it would have been 20% auto, 80% manual, but these days it's now the opposite, 80% auto. We've got apprentice tradies coming to me and I say, oh, did you want a manual? And they're like, no, my boss has got an automatic truck now.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's very much turning into the automatic world.
Now, my dad is really old school, and I had to learn in a manual.
Yeah.
That was the rule, because he said you need to understand how the car works.
Yes.
And do you prescribe to that at all, or do you think it doesn't matter as much anymore because there's so many automatic cars?
There's a lot of automatic cars out there. I'm not a fan of manual in a city.
Yep.
I think you've got too much stop-start traffic and it's hard work.
Yeah.
I think we've got enough to keep our mind occupied just driving in general. If you can learn on a manual, that'd be awesome, but it's not a requirement. Right. If you're going to move out bush, absolutely. If you're going to go outside the cities, then yeah, it'd be a really good idea to brush up on the manual. But there is enough to do on the roads as is, and a lot of people say you don't have the same control in an auto as you do in a manual. Well, that's not quite correct. You do still have control of the gears. There are lower gears in an auto, guys.
That's right.
Go look them. See that. Yep. Look it up. See where they are. See how to use them.
There's a lot of people, I guess, there's overconfidence as well.
Oh, yes.
Right. And I'm guessing that's as bigger, if not a bigger problem than someone who requires more training in that respect.
It can be. Yeah, overconfidence can be a big danger, but often they'll just catch themselves out where, they think they can take a corner at 50 and they end up on the wrong side of the road, and then they're like, oh, okay, I'm not that good. Yeah. So often the overconfidence gets tempered, especially with the raw beginners. I
guess you pick that up straight away as soon
instantly.
As you meet them, don't you? So you know how to handle them. You've
do.
been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop those kids with their hotted up cars hitting the street.
Well, I just like to remind them that you are in a killing machine, guys. It's a lethal weapon that you are behind the wheel of, and please, let's be mindful and say, okay, I need to have control of this vehicle, because if something does go wrong, I need to be on top of that.
So you've been a driving instructor for, at the time, 25 years odd,
mm-hmm.
and then you decide you're going to do these podcasts or this subscription system as well.
Yeah.
What made you? What was the light bulb moment for you that thought this is what we need?
Well, I've always wanted to outsource my knowledge of teaching people how to drive. I'm still doing it to this day, and I will probably do it for many, many years to come, because I just love my job. But I realised that I can't get to everybody. And the best way I could do it is some sort of communication medium. I'm not a fan of video, but the voice, and that's the other point. You can't have videos in the car, but you can. You can. You're not.
But you're going to get in trouble.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, I'm defeating the purpose of this whole thing here.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. So you can listen to these as you're driving around.
And that's the point. So what I recommend is let the learner listen to the lesson at home first, and that way they can visualise what's going to happen. Then they pop in the car with the supervising driver, press play on the radio, and off you go. You listen to me talk you through exactly what I want you to do.
Your website says that you won't scream at them.
I promise.
But it is a real fear, and I relate to you that was my fear when I was learning to drive, that I was going to upset the driving instructor and you're going to get cranky.
Yeah, we often get that where the student is very worried about what we're thinking. Trust me, guys, we just want to teach you.
That's true. And again, on your website, it says, that when you go for your test, just relax because that assessor does not want to fail you.
No.
It's actually a pain in the backside for them to fail you because they've got to see you again.
Yeah.
They probably don't like people. I've met a couple of these driving instructors. They don't like people.
Yeah.
So they're just wanting to get you through the door and pass you, but they're doing their job and making sure that, they're making sure that you're safe when you go on the road.
That's right.
So it is about just relaxing and doing all that. How do you get your clients?
Referrals mainly these days.
Yep.
That or my Google reviews. I've got a lot of really good Google reviews.
Why are you laughing?
Well, I'm actually the highest rated instructor on the Gold Coast.
Hang on. All right. Now, it might sound like we've just paused, and we haven't, but I need to talk to you, Liz, for just 1 second.
Yeah.
If you're the highest rated on Google reviews instructor on the Gold Coast, you need to celebrate that. You need to be confident.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, because that is awesome. And I say that with absolutely 100% sincerity because
Thank you.
Where else what better person can you go to than someone that other people have trusted?
Yes. Yeah.
So you should be really proud of that. That is fantastic. And if that's the case, I really don't know why we're here because you should just have people lining up to come and see you.
Well, I do, but that's the problem. I've only got so many hours in the day.
Why we
which
want
is
to get there.
why we want to do the podcast.
Jeez, I tell you what, there's a reason I just turn up here and talk. Liz, one of the things I wanted to ask was around about schools and how they can be involved in teaching our kids how to drive.
Yeah.
Is that something that you see as the future?
Absolutely. I saw so many years ago when I was a teenager that in American schools, driver's ed is over there. Yeah. And I'm like, why don't we have it here? It just absolutely mystified me that we don't have a curriculum that is applied in schools so that the students can get the information and get a little bit of practice behind the wheel before they get, on the roads with mum and dad. So I would love, that is one of my goals as an educator of drivers to have it in the schools right where they are. It's a perfect opportunity.
And it just seems so simple because when they're in school, they're in the environment and they're in the process of learning.
Absolutely.
So why not just add something else in there?
Yeah. I think the reason that Australia hasn't looked at it is, quite frankly, our level of education for driver training is not that great. And that's one of the things I did want to do is elevate it and show, look, this is a genuine curriculum of lesson 1 to lesson 70. I will give you exactly what you need.
Teach me how to write a sentence. That'll get me so far. Teach me how to drive will live with me for life.
Exactly. Well, that's the point. It's a life skill. We need to have it. And we want to be happy when we're driving. We don't want to be, stressed or upset or not confident. So, yeah, I think, the more education we can get, the better. I think all drivers want the information. I see on social medias, especially from RACQ or any of those type places, they're constantly putting out what is the answer to this question, and I read through the answers and I often get terrified.
I know the only ones I struggle with, we've talked about it, the roundabout.
Yeah.
Because I think I overcomplicate it. Like you get there, you should just go. But those ones that you're talking about, the RACQ and the like around the country where they do those little pictures of who should be turning.
Yes.
It's like, to me, I look at those and go, who is answering these wrong?
Exactly. And
I hope I'm not sitting behind them or in front of them at the traffic lights.
Precisely. So again, it always comes back to education. So whether you're learning your ABCs or whether you're learning driving, you've got to learn it correctly.
So education is state-based. So Anna and Dan and all the other people around the country, they should be listening to this. I'll send it to Anastasia for you.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, I wonder if that would work. Actually, yeah, we'll talk about that later too.
We've got to give it a shot, hey?
We will. Liz, tell us about the subscription and what do you actually get from the subscription?
Sure. Well, first of all, you get ad-free.
Ad-free?
Ad-free. Nobody likes ads.
No.
So I guarantee you, if you go to my website, you will have the ad-free podcasts.
Yep.
You also get access to videos that I've done. So it's often, I can't explain it extremely well, but it does help to see the visuals. So I've got videos of me doing the steering and the intersection safety and a lot of other things that are obviously much easier if we can just see it first and then we can go do it for ourselves.
Because again, mum and dad are teaching the kids after they've been through. it's really important that they know what they should be teaching too.
That's right.
Because you'll go through and you'll show them the right way. The one part I love on the website with the videos is the driving test.
Yes.
So can you explain what benefit that is for a brand new driver like myself? Or I guess it's someone who's had a few lessons.
Yeah.
But what's the benefit?
So I've recorded actual video of the driving test where my student has attempted the test. And although I'm not allowed to audio record, which is probably for the best, that allows me to talk over the top and commentate and tell the listener and the watcher what's going on the actual test. And I think a lot of the reasons why we'd get so nervous about the test is we don't know what's going to happen.
Correct. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea the first time, the second time. No,
Are we going any further?
It only took me 2.
I'm so pleased.
Yes, that's great.
So
Major fail. I don't even understand.
Oops. That's okay.
No one died.
I'll give you my card later on.
Yes. So it gives confidence to people that when they go on the test, there's no surprises.
Yeah. Or at least you've got a really good idea of what's going to happen.
Is that something that when you tell your student that you're going to record their test, how do they feel?
Oh, they don't know. It's the dash cam. So the dash cam's always on.
Oh, so you're not sitting in the back with
like
a creeper with a... Oh, that's a relief.
I could see where your head was picturing.
Yeah. I had you sitting in the middle, with a little seatbelt across and we're going with the video. No?
No.
Okay. Far more. Liz Lafferty is far more professional than that. I will attest to that. So, so they don't know it's being filmed. Do they watch it back?
No, they don't need to because they're passed.
See what you did there? I love it.
There you go.
So, again, probably the reason to subscribe to the website is to get these insights and to be able to go back and watch them over and over again.
Yes, you can watch them as many times as you want, but it's the podcast lessons. They're the ones that you want to have in the car with you. And if you didn't quite get it the first time, that's okay. You just rewind. You play it again. So you can watch the videos at home, but you can't really, watch while you're driving. Yeah. So
we've talked about that.
We've talked about that. That's all good.
With the subscription though, because a lot of people are going to be sitting and going, yeah, okay, the lessons are costing me X amount of per hour.
Yeah.
Now they want me to take out a subscription to this website. Yeah. It sounds great, but I've seen it. Yeah. It ain't that onerous, is it?
No.
So people pay just a monthly subscription or an annual subscription where they get a bit of a discount.
That's right.
But they can cancel at any time.
Anytime. And that's the point. I want people to have access to high quality lessons for a very low cost because so many people these days, we can't afford extras. Yeah. It's just not in the budget.
And we literally are talking a couple of cups of coffee a month and you've got this covered for a few months.
Yes.
And that's gold.
It is. It's not just I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to have this knowledge for life.
And I'm going to actually give my son or daughter that knowledge for life as well.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing because no matter how many kids you've got, you might have your favourite, I understand, but you want to look after them.
Yes.
And how better can you do that than making sure that when they're on the road, which we are all on the road for some people for hours a day, some people for minutes a day. It doesn't matter. Most people will hit the road at some stage.
Yes.
And we're making them safe during that time.
Yeah, we've only got one child or 2 or 3, but there's only one of them.
Yeah.
We want them to come back home safely.
That's right, yeah.
We don't want them to be involved in something which will hurt themselves or other people. So get the knowledge, get the experience. But take a lesson because that's why it's there. It's there to help you guys become confident and safe behind the wheel for life.
For sure. That is, look, I'm going to share this on my personal socials and all the rest of it.
Wow, okay.
I'm going to talk to you about some other things when we leave as well. Can you believe that we've gone through time already?
No way.
Yep.
Wow.
So if we don't get out soon, Ruby will be in kicking us out. Ruby, who is the greatest producer of all time. Liz, it's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
I hope you've got a lot out of it. I've learnt a lot out of it myself, and this is something that I've got a lot of friends that have kids in that age bracket now that are starting to learn. I've got a sister who's got 2 kids that really need this, and they are remote. So I'm going to pass on your details to them as well.
Excellent.
It has been a pleasure, and I appreciate you coming to talk to us.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. Appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thanks for listening to the My Business Podcast. If you want to be on our podcast, please reach out to the team on all our socials at mybusiness.pod.